up, we preview the right side of the LSU infield in 2026. Plus, LSU women's basketball suffers a tough loss on the road at Texas Thursday night, and we'll cover this and so much more on this brand new edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is indeed Friday, February 6th, 2026. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning in to the show. Really appreciate you guys. Hope you've had a fantastic week and are ready to have a good weekend as well. Got a few things going on in the world of sports this weekend. Of course, the Winter Olympics. The opening ceremony for the Winter Olympics is today. You got the Super Bowl, of course, on Sunday. That's big news and big game. 60 years of the Super Bowl, celebrating that on Sunday. But let's get into some LSU content, and let's start with our LSU baseball, kind of rounding out our preseason position preview for LSU baseball going into the 2026 season. We're officially 1 week away. In 1 week, on Friday, February 13th at 2 p.m. in Alex Box Stadium, LSU baseball and Jay Johnson kicks off their 2026 season and their run at defending their national championship that they won in 2025. LSU going after their 9th national championship in program history in 2025. I can't wait. Let's get into the last part of our infield preview, specifically covering first base, second base, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I think the DH position is going to look like, who's going to get some DH time for LSU in 2026. Let's start with first base. So I think at first base, the starter is likely going to be Grand Canyon transfer Zach York. And Zach York is a big guy. He's 6'2" and just under 300 pounds, so you can't really miss him. He played very well in 3 seasons at Grand Canyon, hitting a batting average of .328 with 32 home runs. He holds the GCU record for both homers and RBIs in the school's Division I era. And look, at first base, Zach York moves good for his size. He's pretty nimble. He moves better than you would think for his size. Plays a good first base defensively. And he's a complete hitter. You know, as a big guy, you think he hits just for power, but he hits. He's just a complete hitter all around. He can hit for power, absolutely, with those 32 bombs in 3 years at Grand Canyon. But he's a complete hitter. Doesn't strike out a whole lot. Draws a good amount of walks. He's done that in his career. He definitely can hit for power, absolutely. But he has a short swing. He has a quick swing that allows him to hit a lot of line drives as well. A lot of doubles to go along with that as well. And look, Zach York is one of the best hitters on this team. Just a complete hitter coming into the 2026 season. And I think, you have some guys behind him as well. But I think Zach York will get most of the first base starts for LSU in 2026 because he plays a good first base defensively, moves good for his size, and he's just a complete hitter. Hits for power with those 32 bombs in 3 years at Grand Canyon, but also hits a lot of line drives as well because his short and quick swing. Just a great hitter all around. Behind him, you have another transfer in High Point University. He's Braden Simpson, comes over from High Point, where he had a monster year at the plate in 2025. He batted .389 in 2025 with 24 doubles, 22 homers, 78 RBIs, and 75 runs scored. That puts him at ranked number 9 on D1 Baseball's list of the top 50 transfer hitters. Also went 14 for 15 on stolen base attempts at High Point in 2025. So Braden Simpson is a heck of an offensive player, and he had a monster year at the plate for High Point in 2025. Look, I think Simpson factors more, at potentially second base and DH, because I do think York is going to be the guy at first base. I do think Zach York, with his power and as a complete hitter, I think Zach York gets most of the reps at first base for LSU and most of the starts for LSU in 2026. But I do think Braden Simpson's going to factor in and going to play a lot because look at what he did offensively at High Point in 2026. I just think it's going to be more at second base or maybe DH as well. Don't forget, you got a returning John Pearson as well, who lost some weight over in the offseason. We also, a couple days ago, talked about freshman Mason Braun. in mind, who's got light tower power as a freshman and was ranked as the top first baseman in America coming out of high school last year in 2025. So you got Braun behind him. You got potentially John Pearson behind him, although I think John Pearson factors in more behind Trent Caraway at third base potentially. But I think there's a lot of positional versatility. A lot of guys in this infield can play multiple positions for LSU potentially in 2026. But I think overall, Zach York is going to be the guy at first base for LSU because he had, batting .328 over 3 seasons at Grand Canyon. Just a great hitter, a complete hitter, and a guy who is going to be one of the best hitters coming into this season for LSU. Moving on to second base. So at second base, I think second base coming into the season is going to be the position where we see the most competition because there's really 3 guys that you're looking at. You're looking at, as we mentioned before, High Point's Braden Simpson. You're also looking at a returning Tanner Reeves for LSU, and then Kansas State transfer Seth Dardar. So we talked about Braden Simpson and his monster offensive numbers at High Point in 2025. He played first base and third base for High Point a season ago, but he did log 19 games at second base for High Point in the previous year in 2024. When you talk about Seth Dardar, the transfer over from Kansas State, he also had a pretty impressive offensive output for KSU last year. Dardar's numbers in 2025, he batted .326 with 18 doubles, 13 homers, 45 RBIs, 39 runs scored. One of his homers actually in 2025 came early in the season off of LSU ace Cade Anderson when KSU played an early season matchup in 2025 last year against the Tigers in Frisco. So Dardar in that game got a homer off of Cade Anderson, and then late in the game he also got a double off of Kason Evans. So that's when he really showed up on Jay Johnson's radar, and now he's playing for LSU. Dardar played 22 games at second base last year for KSU and 15 games at first base as well. Tanner Reeves. So Tanner Reeves returning. He played third for LSU last year before eventually he took a back seat at third base to Michael Braswell, largely not because Braswell offensively, Braswell was batting .189 at one point in this season. Now, he turned it on in the postseason, eventually turned it around, but he was, Braswell struggled at the plate in the regular season. But Reeves took a backseat to Braswell because Reeves struggled defensively at times at third base for LSU last season. Although I do think he fits better defensively at second base, potentially for the Tigers when you look at his numbers. Reeves did bat .262 for LSU last year with 3 homers and 3 doubles. Has some left-handed pop. He hit 28 bombs with 142 RBIs in 2 seasons at the JUCO level before coming to LSU in 2025. So he has a little bit of left-handed pop. I think you're talking about these 3 guys. All 3 of these guys, when you look at their numbers, can hit. They can play pretty good offense. They're pretty good at the plate. So it's going to come down to who plays the best second base defensively. And that's going to be, Jay Johnson's not going to sacrifice his infield defense. We saw that last year. Michael Braswell batted .189, really struggled in the regular season, but he was your starting third baseman because he played a decent second base. He played a decent third base. He was your starting third baseman because he played a decent third base, a better third base defensively than Tanner Reeves did. So even though he had a bad batting average, Jay Johnson said, I want Braswell in there for his play defensively at third base. And I think all of these guys can hit. All of these guys have put up good offensive numbers in their college career. It's going to be about who plays the best second base. So I think coming into the season, again, second base is the position that's going to have the most rotation, the most competition. You're going to see Simpson, Dardar, Reeves. All of those guys are going to get action at second base this season. And I don't really see a guy really stepping up to be the everyday second baseman for LSU in 2026. Because, again, I think all 3 of these guys between Reeves, Dardar, and Simpson are all going to play. And I think this is where the DH position comes into play as well. Because I think you'll see a lot of it, like if Tanner Reeves gets a start, I think a lot of times you'll see either Dardar or Simpson get the DH spot in the lineup, or if Dardar gets start, Simpson or Reeves at DH. I also think, the two freshmen I'm paying attention to at the plate are Mason Braun and potentially Omar Cerna Jr. as well. So I think they'll get some action, especially in non-conference play. The first 4 weeks of the season, the two freshmen with some really good power and some really good at-bat skills. So I think when you look at it, you have York at first base. He's going to get most of the reps at first base. We could see some rotation there, but I don't think we'll see a lot because I really like the play of Zach York and what he brings to this team. Second base, it's the position you're going to see the most rotation. It's the position between those three guys. You're going to see those three guys all get opportunities to play. And then I think DH, you'll see a lot of DH time given to the other two guys that don't end up being the starting second baseman for a game. I think you could see Cerna in there. You could see Braun in there. You're gonna play with it. You have really good bats, that really good freshman bats that, because of the experience of the starters in the field, aren't gonna see a lot of time. But I think you could give them some at bats, and there's gonna be rotation throughout the season. I mean, Jay Johnson is not afraid to make in-game adjustments and bring guys in, take guys out mid-game. We know he's going to do that. That's what he does best. That's what he does as a college baseball coach, the best college baseball coach in the country, two-time national champion. So I think, again, first base, Zach York. Second base, you're going to see a rotation between Simpson, Reeves, and Dardar. That's really the only position with the most competition coming into the season. So look out. I'd say if you're paying attention to the lineup every day, look at who's playing second base. I think you could see a situation where Reeves comes in and starts at second against right-handers, and maybe Simpson comes in and starts second base against left-handers. But you're going to see a lot of rotation potentially mid-game as well. So it's going to be something that's interesting to monitor. So I think when you look at it, what you're going to want to pay attention to most in the field is who is playing second base, because that is going to be the most rotation and the most competition, the position with the most competition coming into the season. But that is all we have for our position preview. I've enjoyed doing this every single day. And look, we'll get into more next week. I'll spend a day next week where I go through my ideal starting lineup and, field positions and whatever. We've done an extensive in-depth breakdown of all of these players and all of these positions, and I just cannot wait for Friday, February 13th. I'm so pumped. To see the Tigers back in action. And so that is the end of our preseason position preview. Let me take the time now to tell you about our wonderful daily sponsors here at the Babin on the Bayou show and the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling, a team of experts with multiple decades of experience as experts in the AC industry. And I love my audience for always faithfully tuning in to the show. I thank you guys so much. I want to reward you for that. So if you call the best team in the business today over at Shield Heating and Cooling at the number 225-46-BAYOU. That's 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U. You tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and I'll be giving away free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home. Whether you have one AC system in your home or 4 or 5 AC systems in your home, it doesn't really matter. Call the team, the best team in the business today, and the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. You can trust them. They are trustworthy, reliable, the best in the business today. Call them at 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U, to take a part in this amazing giveaway, free to you, of no cost to you. Free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home, saving you money. And as a sign of my gratitude for you guys always tuning into the show, again, that is 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U, and that's Shield Heating and Cooling, your local comfort defenders. And we do sure thank them, love them, and appreciate them for being the title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. Alright, now let's get into some LSU women's basketball talk, as the Tigers dropped a tough one on the road last night at number 4 Texas in Austin by a final score of 77-64. The Tigers moved to 21-3 overall in the season and 7-3 overall through 10 games in SEC play. The Tigers, coming into this game, did have a 7-game win streak in SEC play, but dropped a tough one last night. And when you look at it, it was a tough offensive game for the Tigers. You're talking about a team who leads the country in points per game at 98 to 99 points per game coming into this one, and they only put up 64 last night. So it was a tough offensive performance for the Tigers last night. Michaela Williams led the way for the LSU offense with 20 points on 7 of 11 shooting. But besides her, it was a bad night for the LSU offense. On the road, you were in a rowdy environment. Texas, I believe, has a now 39-game home win streak. So they have won their last 39 games in Austin. So it was a rowdy and raucous environment. But yeah, I don't know. Just besides Michaela, the offense was off all night last night. Besides Michaela Williams going 7 for 11, the Tigers went 18 of 59 from the field. And really, two of your leaders at the guard position in Flau'jae Johnson and Jada Richard combined for just 4 of 24 shooting from the floor. And even Malaysia Fulwiley had 6 turnovers and 4 fouls in the game. And Michaela Williams, she had 20 points. So Michaela really was your only pulse on offense last night. But she even had 5 turnovers and only attempted 11 shots on the game. So I think when we talked about this team before, we talked about your leaders, your 4 leaders, I think, in Michaela, Malaysia Fulwiley, Flau'jae Johnson, and Jada Richard. And I think Michaela was pretty solid last night, going 7 for 11 from the field. The fact that she only took 11 shots is concerning. She needs to take more shots than that. 11 shots for Michaela Williams, really your best offensive player. You want her to take more shots than just 11 on the game. And then, Richard, Flau'jae, Malaysia, they had a bad night from the field. LSU overall had a bad night offensively. Again, outside of Michaela Williams, only going 18 for 59 from the field is a really bad offensive night for the best offensive team in the league coming in the country, coming into this game. Your bigs and Kate Koval and Grace Knox, who I've talked about being impressed with a lot lately, only combined for 4 points each. So great. So they only combined for 8 points total. Your bench wasn't very good at producing offensively last night either. When you look at it, Madison Booker, one of the best players in the country for Texas, led the way with 18 points for the Longhorns. And really impressive showing from Aaliyah Crump for Texas. She scored 16 points off the bench for the Longhorns. Aaliyah Crump was pretty good. We knew Madison Booker was going to score because Madison Booker is elite. She's one of the best players in the entire country. But nice showing from Aaliyah Crump as well. And then Texas guard Rory Harmon really caused LSU trouble defensively last night. Had a masterful game defensively last night with 6 steals, did Rory Harmon. LSU, you turn the ball over on offense 18 times to Texas turn the ball over 10 times. When you look at it again, your leaders of this team did not really show up last night offensively outside of Michaela Williams. It was a struggle, and Texas is a physical team. They play physical basketball defensively. They're in your face. They play really good defense, and they really caused a ton of trouble on offense for the Tigers last night. The Tigers could never really get anything going offensively. And, it was a close game throughout. Going into the fourth quarter, it was only a 4-point game, but then the Tigers struggled. They only really scored, 12 or 11 points in the fourth quarter, and really Texas just went on a run in the fourth quarter to end this game. But look, I think when you look at it, I don't know if it was pressure, I don't know if it was composure, I don't know what it was, but it was one of the worst nights offensively of the season for the Tigers and for your guards. Your guards are your leaders. Your backcourt is your leaders. We talked about your leaders and Flau'jae, Michaela, Malaysia, and Jada Richard, and those women did not have a great game offensively. I thought even Kate Koval and Grace Knox, I didn't see the same. It's like I noticed them. Like they made me notice them. They made you notice them in the games previous against Alabama and Arkansas, and I feel like you noticed them less in this game. For LSU to win, especially LSU's going to win a lot of games, but for LSU to win games against top 5 teams like Texas, like South Carolina, who comes to Baton Rouge not tomorrow, but next Saturday on Saturday, February 14th for a huge game in the PMAC. Your guards have to be on point offensively, and they just weren't last night. They really struggled on the floor last night, and I do believe in this team. I do still believe that they are a Final Four national championship potential team, with the offense. I mean, they lead the nation in offensive production, totaling 98, 99 points per game. But when you look at it, you only put up 64 points last night, and your guards were not good from the field. Outside of Michaela Williams, again, when you have Jada Richard and Flau'jae Johnson combined for 4 of 24, made shots from the floor, that's not good, and you're not going to win a game against a top 10 team, top 5 team doing that. When those two women, when those two players and leaders of your team only combined for 4 of 24, from the floor. So, look, it was a tough one last night for the Tigers. I think when you look at it, the SEC regular season championship crown is kind of out of play at this point. You want to peak in March, though. You want, if you're the Tigers, to play your best basketball in March and contend for a national championship. So, look, I still believe in this team. I still believe in them offensively, but it was a tough night. One of the worst shooting nights and offensive performance nights for the Tigers all season, and Texas just played really physical defense and really caused the Tigers a lot of trouble. Again, LSU goes down 77-64 last night in Texas. Their next game is Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. on the road at Auburn on the SEC network, so that'll be an interesting one to pay attention to. And again, I think you have all the potential in the world, even though you did have a little roadblock, last night in Texas. But you split the season games against Texas. You beat them in January in the PMAC. They beat you at home for them in Austin, Texas last night. So you still have everything in front of you. But yeah, if this team is going to play up to the potential, if this team is going to win a national championship, you can't have 18 of 59 from the field. And I also think it's weird. It's like last night when Texas did a lot of full court press defensively, and it really caused you trouble. You got to set some screens there. You got to allow some amount of space there to help with a full court press. So defensively, Texas played a lights out game defensively that really caused LSU a lot of trouble last night. But hopefully you bounce back. You beat Auburn on Sunday at 1 p.m. on the road at Auburn on the SEC network. And then you got to get ready for next Saturday against South Carolina in a huge game. And you have to figure some things out there. Shout out to my quarterback, Drew Brees. I mean, man, he is now officially a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer, going to be inducted into the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know I don't talk about them a lot because this is an LSU show, but I do love the Saints. They are my favorite NFL team, and really, I was spoiled growing up with the duo of Sean Payton and Drew Brees and all the success that they brought to the Saints and to the city of New Orleans. And now Drew, one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, first ballot Hall of Famer, going to be inducted into the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. You talk about the numbers for Drew Brees. Second all-time leader in NFL history in career passing yards and completions. Has the most 5,000-yard passing seasons with 5 in NFL history. When you look at it, he finished with 2 Offensive Player of the Year awards, 13 Pro Bowl nominations, 5 All-Pro recognitions. I mean, you talk about, for me, growing up as a Saints fan, I heard all the stories about the Saints in the 80s and 90s, the Aints, right? And the fact that Saints fans would go, stories about they would go to the games with paper bags on their heads because of how bad the Saints were in the 80s and 90s, and I got raised in a generation of Drew Brees and of Sean Payton that was just magical. I mean, you win the only Super Bowl in franchise history in 2009, and you talk about the cultural significance of Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Hurricane Katrina ravaged the city of New Orleans in 2005, and the city needed to be revived, needed revitalization, and the Saints were arguably the biggest part of that in giving the city a sense of hope and a real sense of hope and bringing the city together. You have Katrina in 05, you bring a Super Bowl to the city in 09. I mean, at one point they were talking about, after Katrina, moving the Saints to the city of San Antonio and moving them away from New Orleans and all of that. And you keep the Saints, and you have 15 years of great success. And even, you only won one Super Bowl in 2009, but you think about that 5-year span, really 4 or 5 year span from 2016 to 2020, where the Saints were really just like one of the best teams in the NFL, consistently contending for playoffs and Super Bowls every year. Now, they didn't win a Super Bowl in those years. You had some really heartbreaking moments. You think Minneapolis Miracle, you think the NOLA no call. I was actually at that game. One of my worst experiences ever as a sports fan, period, was being at the NOLA no call game with the Saints one win away from a Super Bowl appearance, and that was hard. So I had some bad memories with the Saints, but you think about Drew Brees, you think about Sean Payton, you think about them really giving hope and restoring and revitalizing the entire city of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And I just can't speak more of the great Drew Brees and more highly of him. I mean, just how he represented the Saints, how he represented the city of New Orleans, the man he was, the player he was. Really, I mean, when you talk about Drew Brees, you talk about a guy who really, he went through stretches in his career where it was like he was like 70% completion percentage, and it was like he never missed a throw. Like, he never had an incompletion. You felt like every pass Drew Brees threw, it was like, oh, he's gonna complete it. Like, that's the guy Drew Brees was. And look, just an all-timer, an all-time great, and now a first ballot NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer. I can't wait for him to be inducted into the 2026 class later this year. I have so many fond memories growing up of Drew Brees and Sean Payton, and now we're on the back half of that, and the Saints are rebuilding with Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck and stuff like that. But Drew Brees and Sean Payton, just what a magical 15-year run, and I'm so excited for Drew. I love Drew. One of my favorite Saints player of all time, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. You think about the number 9 to the state of Louisiana, the number 9 with the Saints and Drew Brees, the number 9 at LSU and Joe Burrow. It's like, think about the historic and the historic run that those two guys took. Joe Burrow in 2019, the Saints with Drew Brees in 2009, and for 15 years with him and Sean Payton. Just, I love Drew Brees, man. He's my quarterback. He's my NFL quarterback, my Saints quarterback, and I experienced so much joy for 15 years as a Saints fan with Drew Brees and Sean Payton, and just wanted to shout out him. The Super Bowl is this Sunday in San Francisco. The Super Bowl 60 years of the Super Bowl. I'll give my pick. I'm taking Seattle to win the Super Bowl over the New England Patriots this Sunday. What a story for Sam Darnold. He's been with 5 NFL teams. You get drafted by the New York Jets, which is really unfortunate. In 2018, he's been with the Jets, the 49ers, the Panthers, the Vikings, now with the Seahawks. He took them to the number 1 seed, and now they're in the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to win it. The Seahawks, that's my Super Bowl pick for this Sunday. I'll be interested in watching that one. And that's all I have for the show today on this Friday, February 6th, 2026 edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I thank you folks so much, as always, for tuning into the show. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy the Olympics if that's your thing. I love the Olympics. I love watching that as well. I cannot wait for next week, next Friday, February 13th. LSU baseball kicking off their 2026 campaign for a 9th national title in program history. Can't wait for that. We'll have a lot more LSU baseball preseason content coming your way before that Friday on the show next week. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the show. Remember, like the video, share the video, tell your friends about the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed already, and remember, God bless, go Tigers, and have a great one.